Good morning. This is from my studio in Newark, cold by the side of the River Trent, and I thought I would, as we gathered at the river, go through 3 different versions of Shall We Gather at the River. I've already recorded it in the key of F, and I'm going to show you also how I would do it if I was doing it in G and also in C. Now, one of the considerations you're going to think about when you're doing an arrangement is who's going to be playing it and for what occasion. Now, if you're doing it to accompany singers, doing it in F is already going quite high. You've got a part where you're going up to a B flat here and Fs and E, which are quite high in the range of singers, and when I do it in G I'm going all the way up to a high G note. So that could mean that doing it F and G is a little bit out of the range of many singers. And I go to lots of ukulele groups, and often they play things in unsuitable keys because people aren't really able to sing it. So the most famous one I can think of is Sloop John B, which you often see it played in C. And the range of that is very different. It goes from a low G, which not many people can sing, or else you're way above most people's range. And the obvious key to do it is in G. But enough of keys. If we're doing it as a solo, it doesn't actually matter where we pitch it. We want it to work well on the ukulele. It's a 3-chord song, well, 4 if you include the C and the C7 if you're doing it in F. So let's just see what happens when I did it in F. So starting with the basic F chord. Then I'm putting in these extra notes to play the melody. The melody is going. Now, lots of my students complain about the amount of times they have to use their little finger, but it's such a useful thing. When I'm doing that F, that's a really firm basis for putting, I mean, if I was going to do that like in the song Spanish Harlem, where's the power? Where you've got to have these fingers able to do that. You need that firm basis and then play around this. But if I'm going to do it and I just need notes on the 3rd fret, then I would tend to use my little finger, or a combination of 3rd and 4th. Now there's that F with the little finger out on the C. Then to a C7. Now in those bars, when I go to that C7, I want the G as that melody note, but I want to put the B flat in it to get the C7th feel, and then just as an added extra I go up to that C7, and it basically repeats. Then my grandson Edward's favourite chord, an F7. Now you've got some choices here. When I do this B flat, the melody note is there. So I can either do this one. Some people find this a complex, not complex, but a difficult stretch. And it could be that you're playing on the wrong size ukulele. This is a concert. I used to play on a soprano, and I can cope with all these bigger stretches on the concert now. Most of them, not all. And as a soprano it's much easier. So if you're finding that too much of a stretch, then go down to a soprano. You don't lose much in quality of sound if you get a good one, and the notes will be easier to play. But I can cope with that. Then you need to go up to here. Now this can be a bit tricky. You've got these 3 fingers involved in playing the harmony, the chord, and the melody notes got 8, 7, 8. Then for the 5, I play a bar down for that. Sorry. Then back to that F. Now the other way of doing it is with going to that chord straight away and using these 5s. For the second time you play it, actually I've inverted them, it's the same idea. So that's it basically in F. My next thought was, well, if I do it in G, then those B flats disappear and they all become Cs, and Cs are really nice to play on the ukulele because that's a C and I'm not using this hand at all, so I can do anything I like to get the melody. So let's just show you some of the tricks playing it in G. Now notice this is standard G chord with the melody notes. Again, your little finger onto the 3. And then there's a nice effect when, if you've done that to get the C, then you can slide it up for the D in the next chord. You could play that instead of just that, add the B in on the G string. I had one student, Claudio, who always called that a tribe G. And even if I'm playing in a normal group, I'll often go to that one. You just get a richer sound. Then when we get in the next part tune, that's against a D chord. Now I'm lucky I can do this bar just with one finger and have the A played at the top open. If you can't, then you could do this standard classical guitarist way of doing a D or an A on the guitar. Put that one and then use these and slide that one back to there. Then the next chord is a D7 where I'm leaving the open C, so there's that gap between those two fingers, and adding the D there. Same again. Then the G7 is going to be this 4535, or as I like to say 4535. Then when I get to these next section, I got this C. Now notice how much easier that was than the B flat version. Then back to this G if you can get there. And back to the 7th fret. And now my ending becomes there. Okay, as I say, that was a bit high to sing it in that. It's probably normally done in churches in the deep south when they're using this for a funeral in the key of E flat. And I could have done a version, say, in D as well. But I decided to do my third version in C. Now C is the key of ukulele players in many ways, except if you use a D tuning. And for this one, I've managed to find a way of getting the first part of the melody done in 2 different octaves, which is always a nice effect. So I'm going to start with this C chord. My melody notes go. So the chords this time, instead of being G, C and D7 in the last one, and F, B flat and C7 in the first one, are C, G7 and F. Chords we're all very familiar with, and I also put a C7 in as well. Now there's one argument about the first chord in the second bar. There, I could go to that. So I've got 3 different notes. Chords are always made up of 3 notes. If you've got a 7th, it's made out of 4. But in a chord of C, you should have the notes C, E and G. And when I do that first chord, the top note is an E, those two are C and G. But when I do that chord, I've suddenly got a G twice and a C there for the harmony. So I could play C, E, G and get it that way, but it's not necessary, especially since in this song the next chord is going to use all three of them again. Another thing you can do when you've just got all of these open strings, you can do a slide or something like that, and it's just a nice effect to get that G. Then into the G7. Now you're not playing the whole of the G7 at the first because you want to stop on that F, but you put it in there. You're ending a C7. Now the next section, the melody notes. Now here's a lovely way of seeing how this using third and fourth fingers to add the tune to a fixed shape. So hold the F. The note's going to be C, B, C, A, then into this nice G7, to the C7 again, and even more notes on the top string in bar 13. Okay, so that concludes this going through these three versions of Shall We Gather at the River. And if you want copies of these, I'll do the three of them, the one in C, the one in the G and the one in F, for a combination price, which is normally the price for a single arrangement of $2.50, which comes to about £1.50 if you're doing it in the UK. Well, that's what I get after PayPal has taken its cut. So enjoy these, and it's nice to think that arranging for the ukulele has got so many variations and so many reasons for doing things. And in fact, I've forgotten the other thing I was going to tell you about Shall We Gather the River. When I've done the tune, I can take this up to this E and play it like this. Then the G7 becomes here. Then a nice use of this high G to play that G chord when I get that note at the top. That note, of course, is a, oh, hold on, brain's gone to sleep, a D, back to the 7th, then quite an unusual way of playing the G here. Then from bar 9 it becomes exactly the same as it was. So I've used these bar numbers. If you want to get the music, just email me. I'll put it in the notes. colinrtribe@btinternet.com. Enjoy your ukulele day.